Welcome to Tonalist Painting with M. Francis McCarthy. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and the painting we are doing today is Dappled Glade 8x10. We did the 5x7 study last week, and they're pretty much on a par with each other, I would say. I don't know if I have a strong preference. I was happy with the 5x7 when I did it, and then I was happy with the 8x10 when I did it. So the 8x10 is currently out on consignment somewhere at a gallery, and I sold the 5x7. So kind of a good motif. I feel good about it. I think I probably sold copies of the prints I made in my studio as well too. So but trying to find this kind of image, reference image, is not as easy as you might think. Like I mentioned last week, I had this was actually buried in the middle of a much larger photo, and didn't really look like it looks now. I mean, I've composited it, I've done some things to really make it strong, but the main thing I guess you'd notice would be the vignetting, heavy vignetting, and that would probably be a good topic to talk about in the blog today. Let me make a note about that. Sorry. Well, vignetting and me go hand in hand. I love it. I have to confess that I'm really big on vignetting, and so much so that I feel it could even be that I go too far with it and rely too heavily on it. But for those of you that aren't aware, vignetting is like when, say, if you were to do a vignetted illustration, it might be an illustration in the middle of a piece of paper or something with no borders. In that case, the vignette would be sort of an implied white. In a painting, which is always going to have a frame, it's always going to have a border. Vignetting usually means darkening around the edges and in the corners. And this is something I like to do a lot. And the main reason that I like to do it is that it forces the viewer out of those edges where you'll notice a lot of times in the paintings of amateurs that they don't know how to direct the eye, and the eye might go off the corner of a of your picture. It might and just wander off into space, and it's not being pulled back in. So vignetting is one really good way to deal with that. Like I said, you can get heavy-handed with it, and this is probably a great painting to talk about vignetting because it is very strongly vignetted. The only really way, actually I think of it more as a way in, is on if you're looking at it with our left hand side and the painting's right hand side. You can see there's going to be a bit of open space where there's some going to be some grass about in the lower middle portion. That will be our way in, but we're pretty much just going to ping around in the painting until we're done. So it's pretty good, and I know it's a good composition because it's had a good response. That's another great rule of art, and I don't know if I'll take the time to make a note right now, but I used to be a manager and involved in manufacturing, and there are a lot of ways to mess a product up. One of the great things about art, and I'd say this was true of music too, in the case of art, if it looks good, it is good. Same goes for music. If it sounds good, it is good. So you may not know how you succeeded, but if it looks good, it's good, and if it looks bad, it's bad. And you can play a bunch of games, mental games, or lie to yourself or whatever, but this is the mechanics of art for sure. Looks good, it is good, and that's a really good one for, I think, beginning painters to memorize too. Because I will have students bring us something that looks good, and they'll talk to me about all the messed up ways they accomplished it. But I said, at the end of the day, it looks good. It's good. You're done. Move on. Go mess up the next one. Anyway, yesterday we talked a little bit about what I'm doing in the studio, and basically I'm doing 14 studies right now. I just finished the drawing stage of all 14. one of which was, I don't know what I was thinking. It was comped as a vertical and I painted it as a square. So that'll just, not even noticing I was doing that. So I attribute that to me having loaded it up on my larger digital screen instead of the small one that I like to use for studies. As a matter of fact, if you go back to the beginning of this video, you'll see when I'm doing the drawing stage of this painting, you'll see my little 5x7 digital frame. It's in the shot. You can actually get a sense of what I'm looking at there, although it's not really showing you the reference exactly the way I'm seeing it, but it's giving you a pretty good idea of how my setup is. And I have been debating doing a little video showing my studio and my setup and things like that. I did one about 3 years ago or something, and it hasn't really changed that much. I've been working where I've been working for about 6.5 years now. So, and I don't really intend to change anytime soon. There's enough challenges in just trying to do good landscape paintings without changing all the stuff that's going on around me. So I've been doing these little studies, and that's going well. I always enjoy doing that. They take me about, well, the drawing portion. I enjoy the whole process of the studies, to be honest. I find them more relaxing than doing the larger images, although not that there's a lot of stress in the larger images. I kind of try to set things up so that I'm always breaking things into bite-sized chunks, and that is something I have a note that we'll be talking about in the blog in the future. But if you that way you only have to accomplish a certain amount of tasks at a given time. You don't have to make every aspect of the painting phenomenal all in one go. So like with these studies, it takes me 15-20 minutes to do my what I call my drawing, and it is to me a drawing even though I'm doing it with a brush. I'm thinking in terms of shapes and value and composition, and I'm not at all worried about color, and not really worried about technique either, since everything I'm doing is going to get covered up anyway. That said, I always try and make it look really attractive, and one of the things I teach is to try and make your paintings look attractive at every step of the process. And this might, this is my way of making things work. It could work just as easily for you if your painting was absolutely hideous until close to the end when you start pulling all the elements together. I have seen painters that work like that, and you can make it work. I think it's a lot easier to build beauty on top of beauty in ever greater crescendos of beautifulness. That's just my the way I work and what I like. So I'm going to select of these 14. I'm probably going to do, I know I'm going to do at least, I probably wind up doing 2 passes out of them. That's what I kind of did last time. I did like 10 studies and painted 5 of them, and then another 3, maybe it was 11. And there was 3 that I actually are nice little paintings as studies. I just decided they wouldn't be good large. And as I've discussed here on the videos and in the blog, this is something I'm trying to do more and more, is get those bad images out of me small and quick. And the studies do go small and quick, and that's one of the things I love about them, because they're small. I can't spend a lot of time tweaking them or worrying about details or textures. I have to make my statement with the shapes and colors, and I do have some textures at my disposal, but it's a far more limited range because of the small size, and I exacerbate this whole thing by using a fairly large brush. And those of you that have been following the blog for a while know I'm a big proponent of using a brush that's slightly too large to be comfortable, and this will always give you a better painting than a bunch of tiny brushes. Tiny brushes will give you very tight paintings that take a long time. And so I have seen good paintings like that. I mean, Thoreau is a great example of that. He's basically a pointillist doing a dot at a time. There are painters I know that have done the rice grain thing, and like these little rice grain brush strokes that build up a painting. You can make anything work, really. It's a matter of intention, but for the most part, and for what I want to accomplish, I use a larger brush. Hey, I mentioned it on the blog yesterday. I probably have just copy and paste that same chunk into today's blog. But a very awesome book is coming back into print, and that is American Tonalism, The Crucible of Modernity. It's 1880 to 1920 by David A. Cleveland, and I know not all of you go to the blog. Some of you don't really like to read, I guess, but get that book, write it down, what I just said, rewind the video. It's a history of American tonalism. It's one of the best books ever, art books ever, and definitely the best book on tonalism that I've ever read. You need to have it, and it's back in print, so that's great news. Anyway, I can see we're getting close to the end. Thanks for joining me today. You can see more of my stuff at landscapepainter.co.nz. We'll be back next week with a whole new painting, and this will be a new painting. And meanwhile, I want you guys to take good care and stay out of trouble.